Baseball's greatest pitcher was also its biggest lunatic. A man with such a wild character, he would make Kenny Powers look like a choir boy. And in 1903, he began the year sleeping in a firehouse in Camden, New Jersey, and ending it tending a bar in Wheeling, West Virginia. And in between those two events, he won 22 games for the Philadelphia A's, all while living the most chaotic life of any man to play the game. The man wrestled alligators for the circus, played left end for a businessman's rugby team, toured the nation in a play called The Stain of Guilt, courted, married, and separated from 3 wives, and forgot to divorce one of them, saved a woman from drowning, accidentally shot a friend through the hand, was bit by a lion, punched a walrus, owned a bear, taught geese to jump rope, and rode ostriches. Once missed half a game to pose as a mannequin in a department store, then later saving that same department store from burning down, caused a game delay because he was playing marbles under the stands while the rest of his teammates looked for their starting pitcher, caused a separate game delay so he could lead a marching band. And I'm just scratching the surface. He was the Bobby Boucher of baseball while being the Babe Ruth of strikeouts. This man was Forrest Gump of the field, Rube Waddell.
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.
Before he was a legend, Rube was born on October 13th, 1876 in the countryside of Pennsylvania, where he grew up chucking rocks at birds. However, little did he know, this mischief would lead him to alligator wrestling for fun. He didn't attend school often, learning most about life on his family farm.
Third day, God created the Remington bolt action rifle so that man could fight the dinosaurs and the homosexuals. Amen.
However, his deadly aim became his greatest asset, earning him a college scholarship. Not that he went to class much. The dude was like the kicker on your high school football team. He wouldn't do shit during practice, only showed up to kick a few balls, then left. That was Rube Waddell. He wouldn't go to class, he barely showed up to practice, but his arm was so accurate, it guaranteed him a spot on the team. Rube was such a powerhouse pitcher that during his college career, a rival team once kidnapped him to stop him from pitching. However, he decided to pitch for them instead, charging them $1.
There it is! It's beautiful! Take your hat off, boy, that's a dollar bill!
I need you to realize just how good Rube was. This man was the Tom Brady of baseball. And this being said, imagine Tom Brady doing half the shit that Rube did. In the early 20th century, baseball was a completely different game. And one of the biggest differences between baseball then and now was the very thing Rube Waddell was paid to do. For a bunch of different reasons, pitchers in today's game are limited to the numbers of pitches they can throw. Even the most durable starting pitchers are typically pulled around the 100 pitch mark, and at which they're pulled for about 5 to 6 games before making another round at the mound. In Waddell's day, it was like Don Fry and Takayama. Pitchers were pushed to their physical limits, and during his 6-year stint with the Philadelphia A's, Waddell averaged 312 innings pitched per season. Nowadays, it's impressive for a pitcher to get near 200 of them, and Waddell hit 312. Rube's arm was probably best shown by his game on August 19, 1900. Waddell pitched a 17-inning complete game in the first game of a doubleheader, and then pitched a second game with a complete game shutout. I don't know how his arm didn't fall off like that dude's in the Got Milk ad back in the day.
Hey, kids!
Oh, that's not good.
With his fastball and dominant curveball, Waddell put up 4 consecutive 20-win seasons starting in 1902. The best year of Waddell's career was 1905. On God's favorite holiday, the 4th of July, he outpitched Cy Young. Yeah, that Cy Young. The one who has a damn award named after him. That year, he won the AL pitching triple crown as he led the league in 27 wins, 287 strikeouts, and a 1.5 ERA. These numbers are downright incredible. This dude was the Babe Ruth of strikeouts, and it all came from a man who was busy fighting his teammates over the right to eat crackers in bed. But I'll get to that part in a minute. Besides being a phenomenal pitcher, Rube was possibly the most mentally unhinged player in the history of the game. His antics have become the stuff of legend. This dude was the definition of be ungovernable. Look, I'm not saying he's making them at night, but
I'm making them at night.
Rube was known to occasionally miss a scheduled start because he was off fishing or playing marbles with hobos. Waddell might disappear for days during spring training, only to be found leading a parade down the main street of Jacksonville, Florida. Waddell would disappear for months at a time during the off-season, and it was discovered that he was performing as an alligator wrestler in a circus. Again,
And I'm not saying he's stupid, he is a literal retard.
The man was married 3 times, verifiably, because Lord only knows how many women he actually proposed to. He even forgot to divorce one of his wives, causing him to be arrested for bigamy. Even with his violent moments, which he had plenty of, the man-child had a good heart. On more than one occasion, his tendency for running after fire engines led him to rush into a burning building, and one time he rescued a woman, saving her life. His premature death at the age of 37 resulted from pneumonia he contracted after standing in icy water for hours, as he placed sandbags in advance of rising waters from a broken dam. But let's not talk about his death quite yet. I don't want to jump to the end of the story. On the night of Tuesday, October 26, 1903, Rube ducked out of his performance in Chicago to go see some lions on display at another theater. For reasons I'm not even sure Rube understood, he decided to punch one of the lions. And to nobody's surprise, the big cat didn't take too kindly to this.
Well, we don't take kindly to folks that don't take kindly around here.
The lion bit Waddell on his left hand, his pitching hand. Again, remember, this man was the Tom Brady of baseball. Imagine Brady doing any of this. When you think of it like that, Waddell's story gets so much crazier. Could you imagine Joe Montana punching a lion in the face and then nearly getting his hand bitten off? That would have got a lot of attention, right? Rube Waddell was the 1903 version of Peyton Manning. If Manning was insane, irrational, childlike, unpredictable, and an alcoholic. Rube Waddell, he loved his alcohol. He's documented as spending his entire first paycheck on one drinking binge, which is honestly probably the least surprising thing that he did. And just as this addiction was undoubtedly responsible for many of his antics, it was also responsible for a number of heated, often violent disputes with teammates and wives. Connie Mack even tried to put worms in his whiskey to prove that it kills them, which honestly, no shit, Sherlock, if you drown anything, it's gonna fucking die. Rube just said, good, I won't get a tapeworm. In the midst of the 1903 season, he decided to try his luck as a thespian. Not a lesbian, a thespian. Which, kind of come to think of it, I wouldn't be surprised if he tried his luck as a lesbian either. Not sure how he would do it, but I wouldn't be surprised. He toured the nation as an actor in a vaudeville play. His acting skills, they were subpar. He always had to ad-lib his part, and once he lifted a fellow cast member over his head, throwing him across the stage and into an orchestra pit. Rube was quite the crowd pleaser, and even if he couldn't remember his lines, he did his best to make everybody cheer. He even took a break in the middle of his pitching career to play semi-pro football, a true Bo Jackson. And on more than one occasion, Rube saved a man's life, carrying a fellow teammate who was hit in the temple with a ball, flagging down a passing carriage, and seeing his friend to the hospital, where he sat by his side all night. Rube was easily distracted and fascinated by fire trucks.
Fire truck?
He would wear a red shirt under his jersey just in case he heard a fire truck pass by. He would leave the game to go help put out the fires, which actually led him to saving lives and pulling people out of burning buildings. He once saved a department store by picking up and carrying out a burning oil stove before the building can catch fire. This man was like Forrest Gump trying to save Bubba.
You stay here, goddammit! That's an order!
I gotta find Bubba!
Rube may have had a mean streak after a few brewskis, but the man also had a soft spot for man's best friend. Opposing fans started waving puppies from the stands to distract Rube, which often worked because he couldn't resist stopping the game to go pet the dogs. Fred Clark of Pittsburgh once threw Waddell completely off his game by inviting him to his ranch in Kansas to do some hunting with his bird dog that he also offered to give Waddell if the dog took a liking to him. Well, that worked because Waddell got to thinking about the dog and completely forgot about the game. Sometimes he would even leave in the middle of the game to go fishing, disappearing for days at a time to go wet a line. And one time after 10 days of missing games, Connie Mack had to hire the Pinkerton detectives to go find him.
What a fine young man. And in such complex circumstances. Arthur, isn't it? Arthur Morgan?
Rube always provided the entertainment at the ballpark. He would sometimes wow the crowd with cartwheels and backflips on the mound. Do you know what goes well with cartwheels? A fondness of going commando. The two pair like fine wine and cheese, or peanut butter and jelly. If Rube were late for a game, he'd climb down to the field through the grandstands, all while downing hot dogs and chugging beer with fans, along the way stripping off all of his street clothes as he headed out for the dugout and his uniform. With no underwear. He inevitably flashed the entire crowd just for fun, apparently. By 1905, Waddell had become so erratic that the A's manager had assigned him a wrangler, known as Mr. Newhouse. Newhouse's job was to keep Waddell out of any trouble, pay for his expenses, and watch over him the same way I have to watch over my 1-year-old son. Waddell could even go out fishing on his own without Newhouse following behind him in a patrol boat. However, even how fun Rube might have been in small doses, big personalities can be hard to deal with for extended periods of time. Think of it like Vegas. 3 nights in Vegas sound like a great time. What about 2 weeks? How about an entire baseball season? It would have been hard to deal with Rube for a long time. In those days, players on the road had to share a bed. Rube's roommates complained so often about him eating animal crackers and peanuts in bed that a no cracker clause was added to Rube's contract. And honestly, I can absolutely understand that. Who the fuck wants to sleep with crumbs in the bed? Rube's many adventures are almost too numerous to mention. On top of punching lions, he punched a walrus, he rode ostriches, and he owned a bear. Who the fuck keeps letting this guy in zoos?
You can't keep getting away with it!
Rube was a good fighter. I mean, he survived a fist fight with a lion, so that's something. He never hesitated to hit those that he found deserving. He once beat the dog duty out of one of his teammates in a fight over a straw hat. Apparently, the offending player had made the mistake of wearing a straw hat after Labor Day, and Rube took grave offense to that. As the story goes, the A's had finished a brief road trip in Boston and were returning via train to Philadelphia. The date was September 8th, a full week after Labor Day. This fact is important as September 1st was a traditional day that men were supposed to stop wearing their summertime straw hats for a more formal felt hat, which this is actually true of cowboy hats too. Felt is for winter, straw is for summer. Those who failed to abide by this practice were ridiculed and their hats were deemed fair game for destruction. As the A's rode the rails home, they made a stop in Providence, picking up pitcher Andy Coakley, who had taken a brief hiatus from the team to visit family in Rhode Island. As Coakley entered the train wearing the wrong hat, without hesitation, Rube with a smile charged his teammate in an attempt to smack the hat off Coakley's head. In the melee that ensued, bags were thrown, men toppled over each other, and Rube managed to somehow tear his shoulder. To make things worse, rumors about the honesty of Waddell's reasoning for starting the fight began to circulate. It came to the conclusion that Waddell had been bribed with puppies by New York gamblers for the purpose of keeping him out of the World Series. Look, whatever the case of whether he did or didn't, Waddell missed out on most of September and didn't get to play in the World Series. Had he not missed so much time, it seems likely that Rube would have ended the 1905 season with 30 or more wins, surpassed 300 strikeouts, and had the opportunity to showcase his talents in the postseason game against the New York Giants. And in 1912, Waddell started showing the effects of tuberculosis, which he contracted in the spring while staying in Kentucky playing for a minor league team. A river flooded, and Rube stood in the icy waters for more than 4 hours trying to pile sandbags on the embankments. His health declined after this, and he ended up staying in a sanitarium in San Antonio, Texas. It was here that on April 1st, 1914, Rube Waddell died at the age of 37. He's buried in Mission Burial Park in San Antonio, Texas, and in 1946, Waddell was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame by the veterans community. If you enjoyed my video on baseball's true wild card, then please leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. It's the easiest way to help my channel. Plus, your engagement is a tribute to the algorithm gods, and those gods help put my channel on the map. Until next time, see you beautiful bastards in the next video.
Yoo-hoo! I'll make you famous.